And yes, here we need to make a clean break. We need to stop messing around. The problem here is the Chinese, it's China, and the problem the United States has isn't us, Latin America. That's already the declared issue. And the United States needs to take responsibility for the misfortune that plagues the continent. They need to get us out. The problem is the foreign debt, nationalizing the foreign debt. If they're going to buy the foreign war, they need to take responsibility for that. And that will allow them to have 1.6 billion partners necessarily. Let them take away that problem they got us into. And that's the only way we can be useful to them. It will always be cheaper for them than a war with China. The foreign debt is a deceptive illusion that was carefully created after World War II. And political power was passed to the second tier, while financial power took the reins of power in the world. And financial power grabbed hold and created an instrument which was corporate power and became the owner of the entire continent. And it created, through the corruption it generated, an unpayable foreign debt that has 1.6 billion people under its control. So now the United States has a truly terrible problem because it is almost completely uncontrollable, and no matter how many military bases they build or all those different things they think of with the military mindset, who don't understand politics and have displaced the politicians, and financial power supports them, sustains them. They manufacture weapons, sell them, and financial power makes incalculable fortunes. But the Chinese have changed the method, they've changed the methodology, and they're taking over the continent. And what is our worst enemy when it comes to taking sides? The Chinese seduce us, and if they already accuse us of being communists, what communism? What's happening on the continent is not communism, not at all. We've already said it enough times. Now then, the serious problem for the natural partners that the United States has is the foreign debt. And that foreign debt, which is a problem, a ghost that can't be solved? No, on the contrary, that foreign debt has to nationalize the United States. Buy the foreign debt. What's left to buy? They don't have to buy anything. Those are all the institutions they control. That bloated barbarity is a creation from a group that they themselves have created, and of course they have subjugated a continent with more than 20 countries, half a continent to be precise. But while that's happening, and it's worked out well for them, they've increased their power potential and positions, meaning taking over everything that generates money: oil, gas, lithium, energy, transportation, communications, and whatever else you want. That means power is in the hands of corporations. Nothing about what happens in this country, which is the one that runs, not to say the whole world, but it runs the world. The power that operates in the world is held by Wall Street. Now, are we enemies? Not at all. On the contrary, we have to be bold, and we must also be daring. I mean, we can't just make little videos to get likes. If this video is seen by 100 people, that's enough, as long as 2 out of those 100 are the ones we need to see it. We're not making videos here to make money. There's no money here. There's no, let's see how we can get the algorithm, and I don't know what else to get more likes. Here the problem is serious. Stop messing around. The problem here is serious. The problem here is that China is invading the continent with a very clever strategy, a new kind of warfare, a war for which these people here in the United States are not prepared. I mean, it's not that I'm saying this to discredit anyone, on the contrary. I'm exposing what isn't being seen. And I collect kingdoms again. You're such an idiot. You're culturally illiterate. How could you possibly see that? How are things supposed to be fixed? I am reality. I am part of reality. I am one of the 1.6 billion people who don't know what to do, because we're Americans, Latin Americans. We talk about independence. We defend it, our sovereignty, and so on. All of that. But our biggest brother, the one who should have been our sponsor, and because of now there's corruption, there's so much ignorance, we're still primitive, we're often considered stupid, we're frequently illiterate, and we're regarded as an inferior race. That really gets to me. That no. There's someone to blame for all of that. The Chinese were even more backward than us 70 years ago. Apparently, they were given a financial illusion. They were opened up to the global market. They were brought science and technology. And look at what China is today. So, if instead of doing that in China, they had done it on this continent, we would be China, wouldn't we? Yes, fine. We're not going to deny the intellectual and millennia-old capacity of the Chinese, but with financial injection, well, so now we are struggling in misery, in poverty, and it's like a villager's problem, a neighborhood issue. Fighting among ourselves, a lot of people call me, people from different places who want to make videos to see what I think about it. I no longer have any knowledge or wisdom to tell people what they should do. I see what the problem is. The problem here isn't this, and solving the political problem of our countries, that doesn't matter. Just imagine that for a moment. And today we have, because one of the significant problems that people often mention about Latin Americans is that all the political leaders are corrupt, that the system itself is corrupt. And it's true. The majority of the political leadership, with very few exceptions, but most of the political leaders who run our countries are corrupt. How could they not be? All the millionaires are not poor. There aren't any poor people running anything, even though there are many talented ones. But who corrupted those corrupt individuals who have become multimillionaires and who control politics, communications, who control everything? It's the owners of the mass media, the owners of the newspapers, the TV stations, the newspapers. Who? Who is financing? Who is financing now? And so all these things are what we have to expose if we want to save ourselves, because this isn't about the United States collapsing, and it shouldn't collapse. For us, that would be a catastrophe. But the ones who will suffer the most consequences are not us. We are used to suffering, to enduring marginalization, punishments, disgrace. Anyway, whatever you want to call it. Latin America has been going through this for 200 years, the vast majority of its people. So if someone else comes to take control, what will happen? What happened when America, that is the continent, shifted from the rule of the Spanish Empire to the rule of the British Empire? Did anything change? No, nothing. Everything stayed the same. The vast majority, the sectors that helped rearrange the pieces, yes, they did well. They were paid and became multimillionaires. Just as now, they've been paid off through corruption, they've been corrupted, and have become owners of all the continent's wealth. But that doesn't guarantee the United States' future security. Because if there's anyone who's punishing us, it's not communism, because communism no longer exists. The Chinese were the only communists who didn't. There's only one communist left to worry about, and that's that little guy, the chubby one from North Korea, but the rest are all in business now, operating as part of the global economy. So we have to be truly objective in our thinking, because we all need to save ourselves, and in fact, we need to save the whole continent together. We can't save ourselves alone, no matter how hard we try. And if we have an external debt, with people getting poorer and poorer every single day, children dying of hunger and malnutrition, people sleeping on the streets without shelter, is that the kind of partner the United States really needs? We must ask ourselves, is that the kind of relationship that benefits anyone in the long run? Is that the partner? That's what I ask the president here. That's why I start to play with power. I start to play with power. Enough with the nonsense. That artificial external debt they invented after the revolutions they caused, after they took away our authentic governments, true representatives of real democracy, and then they invented a democracy for us. They invented a democracy for us and forced it on us. Debt and more debt and more debt and more debt, and each time it's worse and worse. People were left without jobs. They themselves took everything to be manufactured in China. The industries disappeared. The textile industry disappeared. The metallurgical industry disappeared. All the industries disappeared. All the jobs were taken to China. Today, the Chinese make everything. Who took all the people's jobs to China? Us, please. We are the ones most dispossessed, the most punished, 1,600 of us. It's not just a handful of crazies, you know. Now then, this, my bluster, which is somewhat disorganized and lacking in focus, does not come from a background of high cultural level or refined upbringing. I do not have the ability or the experience that would allow me to present myself with the confidence or authority that comes from true knowledge or cultural sophistication, and the eloquence at the cultural level that would be required to go out into the world. You're right, we're not prepared. All we have is intuition. We have to solve this, and frankly, we're partners with the United States. So we say to our partners, look, are we partners or not? We're brothers, Latin American brothers, the beggars who come to ask every day in Washington. What do they come to ask for? Who asks? Who comes to ask? And who gets something? Listen carefully, who comes to ask? Who comes to ask and who gets something? Do the 20, 30, 50 billion that come out of the International Monetary Fund for Latin America actually arrive? No, it's to pay the debt service. Hey, that has to change. And it has to change no matter what. It's not just my idea. No, it has to change because we need to stop paying the debt in order to strengthen ourselves, since we are the partners of the United States. We are partners whether they like it or not. Like it or not, we are partners. Partners. So if we are partners, we are going to defend them. But to defend them, we can't have the U.S. buying the foreign debt of Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela. Of all of us, we are up to our necks in debt. And we keep paying the debt. And the Chinese take advantage. The Chinese are very clever. Every day they get a little more involved, every single day, bit by bit. What are they doing in Congo? They build railways, they build ports, they set this up, they put in observers out at sea, ships and so on. And the Chinese are making advances. And who is going to lose? So let's be practical, And let's admit that in the United States, our media people don't do it. Why don't they do it? Why don't they say it in the United States? You in Latin America, the media people, you who are journalists, professionals, why don't you tell them? Look, in Argentina, there are a lot of very good journalists. In Mexico, don't even get me started. And in Colombia, and in Venezuela, and in Ecuador, and in Peru, and in... Why don't you tell that to the United States? No, they go with, we're left-wing, come on, left-wing. What's the difference if it's left or right? What is it? They've made you believe things that you are. I imagine you must realize that, right? It's the same thing. I mean, whether it's left or right, you're screwed either way. And if you think that the left is going to solve this, this isn't a left or right problem. It's an ideological problem. Don't be foolish. Don't be fools. And tell them things, but tell them properly so they understand that this needs to be solved in one go. Tomorrow, the U.S. could have Trump or whoever is in government. I'm not speaking for Trump. I'm speaking for whoever is in the U.S. government. The United States takes charge. I don't know. That's the usual scale. That's what they did, right? And they take charge of the external law. Let them declare a moratorium. I don't know, whatever they want, and let them solve that problem, but not by pouring funding or capital into the hands of the same people, into the hands of these same people. No. And there's an extraordinary tool that's already in operation, artificial intelligence. How? With artificial intelligence, corruption comes to an end. What do you think about that? If you think artificial intelligence can solve everything, there won't be any way to fight corruption. Please. And they know they can do it. So today I wanted to talk to you about these things. And the weakest flank the United States has is the area they call their backyard. That's the weakest flank. That's where the Chinese are coming in. First, they came in with little markets quietly. The Chinese slipped into the continent, and just look at how much they've advanced in the last 20 years. These people, for quite some time, neglected their own backyard, and instead of realizing, those so-called strategists in this country, that this very backyard was actually the place where the real true enemies of the interests of the United States and the entire continent would eventually come in, it was in fact the very place where they neglected the hens that were quite literally in their own backyard. And they have undermined us with promises, and the Chinese come and flatter us and fill us with junk for us to consume without any need. They have created a bunch of vices and temptations for us. The biggest problem with drug trafficking, which really causes a disaster here, is manufactured in China. It's that they, the Frankenstein monster, they invented it. We, in the backyard of the third Lola, are paying for their war adventures in Ukraine, in Europe, in Asia, in Palestine, in Iran. We are the ones paying with external debt. Where does that external debt go? Meanwhile, they are stockpiling millions of tons of gold. And the continent is filling up with it. What will happen in 30 years when the Chinese take over all the potential? With the story of Stiglitz and Aflox, who were always somewhere else. So we are facing that problem. And we are seeing that problem, that we are going to lose the continent. And they are the ones who are going to lose even more. As I said before, it will be cheaper for them to take charge however they can. They know how to do it overnight. The State Love Fund, the World Fund, the International State Love Fund, the World Bank, the Paris Club, BlackRock, all of them. It's the same, they're all the same. It will be cheaper for them. And they will lose less if they take responsibility for this mess they've created in America, in Latin America, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same. It will cost them less than a future war with Russia, which they are losing. They're losing it because Russia has different weaponry. If it were about weaponry, about fighting, about war, about firing cannons, they wouldn't have advanced the way the Chinese have on the continent. Let's see if they who arrived there with such powerful financial power are the owners of China. Why isn't the United States the owner of China the way it is of Latin America? I'm asking you. Have you thought about that? Have you, as professional journalists, thought about that? Have you ever made a proposal like this to those in power? Don't listen to those in power because they won't listen. Listen up. If I say anything outrageous against this country's interests, they'll kick me out in a heartbeat. But I don't want that. I'm fighting so that this country can really get rid of the garbage that's harming us all. Well, now we've already laid out the whole problem. This spiel, this new line of argument, is going to be our workhorse to explain our problems. We have to set aside, from now on, we need to take the lead in explaining the problems ourselves. Journalism hasn't worked for us because journalism is practically conditioned or formatted to fulfill a mission very respectfully to the journalist. But the truth is that those who should be our champions to take the next step and explain things have not supported us. So the United States has to solve the problem of external debt with the continent. Because if we are partners and our main partner has us controlled and dominated and doesn't allow us to move, how are we supposed to defend what we need to defend? We have to defend the continent and the interests of the continent, and the greater interests of the continent, even though they are ours, are in the hands of the United States. So we are partners, we are perfect for them. How are they going to solve it? Ideally, the United States should take responsibility. The United States, this country where we are now, should take responsibility for that enormous and massive drama that is the problem of external debt, however they propose to do it, to whomever they propose it, and with whomever they negotiate. That is a topic to discuss, to meet about 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, and to reach an agreement, because it's not like we're going to hand things over, as many people from the left or the right will say, or give away our oil, or now Reynoso or the old man talks about already kneeling before the United States. Now we are on our knees. Now, at this moment, we are on our knees before the global financial power, not the United States. So we have to look for our own way. We're not going to go to war with them. It was already tried with the left, with the communists. That doesn't work. It has shown us that it doesn't work. We have interests, so interests mean business, they mean agreements, and that's what we have to achieve. Today I wanted to start by saying this, and I'm going to repeat it. You're going to hear me. You're going to get tired of hearing me. And that's the only way out we have. It's not like we have many options, nor that by trying to solve our problems in our own villages. We're going to offer an alternative to reality. The only reality we have is to make good agreements and understandings, to take away from our leaders the possibility of becoming corrupt. Because our problem is that, unfortunately, there will always be corrupt people in society who are willing to take actions, or even carry out unspeakable, immoral, and reprehensible acts. So, corruption must be displaced, but it must be done with intelligence, careful planning, and thoughtful strategies. And today we have all the tools, so we remove the problem of external doubt. How is it done? How is it negotiated? How can the United States remove that? Just as it imposed it, it can remove it. Or it can lessen it, or there could be a moratorium, or there could be an agreement, I don't know what. But we have to free ourselves from that burden so that now, in the face of Chinese aggression, we can take the side of the United States. We cannot take the side of the Chinese, even if some dreamers think otherwise, who naively think that salvation lies with China, India, Russia, and so on. We are a continent, and that continent is made up of all Americans. So I leave you with this thought. If you agree, that's perfect. If you don't agree, I can explain, or we can look for an explanation together. If you disagree, show me your argument, which is also very valuable. But I believe that if we approach this positively, the point here is to solve the problem, not to argue endlessly. Solve the problem and as soon as possible. And tomorrow we'll continue with another topic, but we'll keep working on the same thing.